and welcome to the video. This is my first tutorial inside my new hall and to hopefully produce more and more content for you all. Now in this video we're going to look at the pendulum serve and the reverse pendulum serve. And in the final stage we're going to look at these really complex and advanced variations too. So if you're interested in those, then make sure you stick around to the end. And of course there might be a few bloopers right at the end. There always is. So in my opinion, it's really important that we have a serve that can move from left to right, as well as right to left. And the pendulum and the reverse pendulum offer that. Now the reason that's important is that some people are very controlled when the ball's moving one way, but not the other. Some opponents are left-handed, some are right-handed. If we've got these two variations, and the skill to deliver variety within those techniques, then we've got the tools to be able to create opportunities against a variety of opponents and kickstart the process to perfecting these two techniques. The grip for the pendulum service is finger and thumb, so my finger comes along the back, it's quite in the center, and then my thumb on the opposite side is also quite close to the center. Now what I have, and not everybody has this, but I think there's a real big benefit to having this, is these three fingers here just resting on the handle, and they can also contribute to some acceleration. So if you have the fingers off and they're curled, it's mainly this finger and thumb that are doing the work, whereas these three fingers, for me, they can also contribute to some acceleration and more potential spin. Now for the general technique, we want this racket to come back away from us. Elbow stays quite close to the body, and then the elbow is going to stay in a similar position. It's going to come forward and we're going to make contact somewhere in front of our body. Those little details will become apparent in a second. And then for these different effects, we're going to contact here at different angles, different contact points on the racket. That's going to create some different spins for us. Now for us to create opportunities, we have to have the control to be able to move the ball around into different positions. When we're learning something new, it's very common that we try it and all the balls end up going into the center of the table. It's safe, our brain understands that that's safe, and it allows us to work through various technical aspects of the serve. So just be mindful that once you've perfected those or started to see some progress of those, that we start moving the ball into different areas. Of course, we can just start to experiment with placing the ball into different positions. That's an important part, but we also have to understand how we're making those changes. So the contact point in relation to your body, the angle of the racket, the positioning of the ball on your side, all of those things are going to impact where the ball goes. Now for me to create this wide pendulum serve here, my contact is going to be to the right hand side of my body, and I'll show you that from a different angle in a second. The angle of my racket is going to be quite open, but it's also going to be a little bit flatter. Those things are also going to help create that angle. And then my contact on my side of the table is going to be close to the center line. That position, along with the angle of my racket, is going to help produce that swing a little bit wider. Some subtle changes to change that ball to the center of the table. Now I'm going to show you a little bit more of my red rubber, and rather than the swing coming here, the swing is going to come a little bit more diagonal. I'm still contacting down the right hand plane of my body, and again I'll show you that from a different angle in a second. And this wider positioning down the line, once again, the angle is going to change. The trajectory of the delivery is going to be, once again, a little bit more severe, more diagonal here. However, this time the contact is going to be more in front of my body, not so much to the right-hand side. Once again, I'll show you all three of those next. Okay, so there are some subtle differences that we can make to help create these different positions. Now, we tend to have more control down this right-hand plane of our body for right-handers. So this is where I'm making contact for my serves. That's where I've got most control. If I'm contacting in front of my body here, it's quite awkward to make these contacts with all these different techniques. So very natural to just come away from the table and already throw this ball up within this right-hand plane. Much easier to be able to create these different effects. So for my short serve that's going wide and to the center, I'm making contact down this right-hand plane of my body. Where this changes slightly is when I go down the line. If I stick to this contact here, it's now quite difficult to force this angle. You see my elbow comes out, I can do it, but I'm giving signals away to my opponent. So instead of that, what I'm trying to do is start much closer to the line. I'm trying to keep that ball toss in front of my body now, in the center. And now that's going to be easier for me to just come in, and you'll see there's just a small twist, which actually brings that contact back to the right-hand side of the body. And that makes this movement down the line much easier to control. Okay, so it's this, which is awkward, or this makes it much more simple. And it's very tough for an opponent to pick up on this little change here, whether we're starting really close to the line or whether we're slightly further away, whether we're making contact here or here. They don't always get that perspective from that side. The changing position for these long serves are much more subtle. We're using pace to get the ball into those different positions. So the angle of the racket is going to change ever so slightly along with the delivery path. And that's going to help create those different angles. With this, again, the contact's going to be a little bit more in front of the body because we're going to try and produce some pace. Okay, so that's here. Open back face, it's showing to my opponent a little bit more. And there's a small diagonal movement, not too much. Okay, so it's a little bit more extreme this time. Racket face is still facing my opponent, but it's this angle. Before it was here, and now it's here for that serve to go down the center. And now, once again, it's even more extreme for this ball down the line. It's almost directly back towards my left hip. Still contacting in front of my body, of course, behind the line, but the direction of the racket is much more extreme, and it's that pull that's creating that ball down the line. So now we've covered those different positions, now we can start applying those different spins into those different positions. Now, underspin, we're going to be a little bit more of an extreme angle, so it's not going to be quite so open. It's not going to be flat, it's going to be somewhere in the middle here. I'm trying to show this edge to my opponent, and I'm aiming for somewhere around here. It's good to think about aiming here for underspin. In reality, it might end up being a little bit further in the racket, but that's the part of the racket that's moving more, especially when we're using this grip and this wrist acceleration. So that's going to help produce more quality. Now for topspin, we're going to play around with this angle. We're going to increase the angle here. We're going to aim for the center of the racket and we're going to think about pushing forwards over the table a little more. Now with this, we're imparting side spin, but the momentum is going to turn that into a small amount of top spin. What we can add to that to increase the amount of spin is the same thing, open angle, center of the racket, but this time there's going to be a bit more of a pull up towards the chest. So underspin first. This lighter top spin. And then more top spin. So once we've got those different spins and that variety combined with these different positions, short and long, we've suddenly got a ton of variety to throw at our opponents. This is a very quick message. I have an online table tennis academy which is launching. I've been working on it for about 10 months. It's taken much longer than I'd hoped. But there's a ton of detail that's going to be on the videos that sit on the online academy. And we've developed an online planning function as well. So you can input the areas of your game that you want to work on that week, and it will produce a plan for you to follow. We're getting very close to its launch. If you want to sign up to be notified about when the launch is happening, then go to this link. And it'll also be in the description as well. I'm incredibly excited about it. I think it could help a lot of people, and hopefully you think the same as well. So go and sign up and check it out once the launch happens. Now the grip is slightly different for the reverse pendulum. Pendulum was in the center with the fingers resting here. Now this finger is going to come out to the outside. The thumb is also going to come to the outside. And then I have these fingers rested on the racket. And then you see there's one or two that are just coming down to the handle. Now the reason for that is that it allows this handle to go over the top of my wrist. That benefits my backswing and my preparation for the serve. And that gives me much more flexibility in my wrist, much more potential for spin. If I grip in the pendulum grip, I'm a little bit limited. I've got to use my elbow to try and force this action. So once again, when I make that change there, much more fluid, much more loose for me to get my wrist into the serve. Just to make sure that when you're playing around with this grip, that you find a comfortable grip that allows you to get back into your playing grip. We don't want to see this, which I see far too much. Don't do that. So this is the reverse pendulum serve. Wrist comes back, elbows out. This gives room to come forward and accelerate. And now you can see the wrist is coming out. And once again, the position on the racket is going to change the spin. Where we make contact is going to help change the position of the serve as well. And of course, the angle that we make contact to is going to have an impact on what type of spin we create. So I'll show you these from a different angle. So once again, to change the positions on this reverse pendulum serve, I want the contact down the right-hand side of my body. And this time I'm going to be pushing the ball over the center line. I want it to bounce quite near the middle of the forehand half for me here. So right in the center of here, because I've got to allow for that bend on the ball, and that's going to help me get it into that wider position. And you see the direction of my technique is almost towards the net post. So that gives you an idea of what I'm following to create that position. Now when I change to the middle, now the direction of my serve is going to go just a little bit inside the net post. So somewhere around here, and I'm still contacting down this right-hand plane of my body. Now, once again, this is the change that we're going to make for this ball down the line. I don't want to be contacting too much to the right-hand side. I want it to be much more in the center of my body. And then the path of the shot is going to be a little bit more towards the center of the table. So those two things combined, as well as the angle I make contact, is going to help me get that into the short forehand. Now again, I just want you to pay attention to this right hand plane as well as in the center of the body, of these two contact positions that are helping change position. So for short forehand and the middle, I'm starting slightly further away, keeping that ball toss down the right hand side. And that's allowing me to get the ball diagonal into the forehand or into the center. Now I'm keeping the ball toss much more in line with the center of my body. And that makes it much easier to get that ball down the line. So once again, pay attention to the line where we're making contact. If I try and go down the line, but I'm starting here, it becomes quite awkward to create that angle. Now to create underspin for this technique, as we come back, we're trying to make the racket as flat as we can, and we're trying to make contact on this leading edge here. If we can keep that racket fairly flat with that front contact, then we'll create pretty decent underspin, so long as we've got this acceleration there. And you'll see the direction of the shot is over the table. Now for topspin, it's not going to be so much over the top. That's going to get a ton of topspin for us, but it's going to declare what that is to our opponent. So this time we're going to focus more on hitting the center of the racket, and we're going to focus on that push around the back of the ball. So we're producing side spin with a little bit of top, and then as it bounces, it's going to create some momentum, which turns it a little bit more into topspin. So now you see the effort's a little bit more around the back. The first one's a little bit more over the table, and the topspin one's a little bit more around the back of the ball. So here's backspin. And here's topspin. And once again, for the long positions, the changes are much more subtle. The contact point is going to be more in the middle of the body. And then it's these subtle angle changes that are going to help create the different positions. Okay, so once again, that's almost towards the net post. Okay, in the center line, once again, I'm almost in the middle between the center line and the net post. And again, down the line, now my racket path is pretty much in the center line. So they're the three subtle changes that I'm making with the direction to create those three different positionings. And now we're going to take a look at these really cool and fun techniques. We're going to try and merge these two serves together. Now there's some pros and there's some cons to doing this. The pros are that they look pretty cool, I think. They give a really cool illusion. Those illusions can trick people if they think the ball is going one way and it actually ends up going the other. We're going to create opportunities. There's some real intricate skills that you have to develop to be able to do it. And they're really great for crucial moments in the match when someone isn't expecting something like that. And that can result in either a direct point or an easier opportunity to try and put the ball away. The cons to this we'll come to after we've had a look at both of them. So first of all is this fake reverse or snake serve. So this is us using the pendulum serve, but faking with a reverse pendulum motion. So I want you to see this motion here. Your eyes are expecting the ball to go this way. Actually, it turns the other way. Now what's happening here is it's a pendulum serve, but instead of it being a big motion, it's this little short snap that helps create the spin. And for me, this is where this grip comes in. We've got finger and thumb, these crucial fingers on the handle, and all that together allows me to create a lot of spin with a really short action. Now, the more spin I can create with that short action, the more time I've got to wrap around the other side of the ball. And it's that creates the illusion. And then we're slowly working on making this smoother and quicker. So it almost looks as though it's one motion. The con to this serve is that it's really difficult to be mindful of whether you're catching it with a little bit of underspin, some side spin, some top spin. It's really hard to be detailed when a lot of the action is afterwards. So it's not impossible, but it's pretty tricky to be prescriptive and accurate when you're being mindful of different spins. So there I'm trying to get some underspin. I got some, not enough. Whereas if I was just focusing on the simple technique, I would be able to create lots of those different spins and in a quite extreme way. So play around with it. It's a fun one and it's a cool one to have. See what you can do. The other version is almost the opposite. We are almost faking that we're going to be going for this pendulum serve. So we're making the action quite big and swinging in towards the ball. And before I approach it, then I'm looking to come around the outside as late as I possibly can. So the real benefit of this is that people are waiting for this pendulum to happen. And then that change is coming. So it's a good way to catch them out. They may be stepping in or getting ready to spin around the right-hand side of the ball. And then suddenly this ball comes in quite quickly and curving in the opposite direction. So a great way for a quick point or an easier opportunity. Now the con to this, and you may have noticed already, this is really tough to make short, as well as create different spins. The main deceptive part is the type of side spin and the direction of the ball. Really hard to create that variety and subtlety with this technique. And that's partially down to the grip as well. I'm adopting a pendulum grip because that's what I'm trying to show them. And then I'm changing into the reverse serve, but with the pendulum grip. And as we've already described and detailed, that makes it quite difficult to get the handle over the wrist and to be able to create these different variations. So that's the downside. This is me trying to do it short. It's quite hard to have that thin touch. That was okay, but it's a little bit of topspin, half long, a little bit high. The risk is greater. So I don't use them as much, but they can be absolutely crucial in certain matches and certain scenarios. So these are the only two serves that you need. Go away and practice them and have some fun with them as well. See you at the next video. And start your journey. Oh. Scrap that. If Coke Zero would like to sponsor me, get in touch. Yeah, there's some tough. Off like. Huh? Okay, say bye to your mum for me. See you, Trace. You're going to be in the bloopers now.